They weren't built to blend in. They were born from wild ideas, fleeting ambition, or secret plans that almost no one ever saw through. Some were made in single digits, others were prototypes that disappeared into private collections or museum vaults. Each one is a story of what might have been, wrapped in metal and mystery. Here are 12 insanely rare cars you won't believe actually exist. The 1967 Bizzarrini 5300 GT Spider is one of those elusive fragments of automotive history that seems too beautiful, too rare, and too tragic to be entirely real. Yet it is. Born from the mind of Giotto Bizzarrini, the former Ferrari engineer whose fingerprints are on some of Italy's most legendary racing machines, the Spider was an audacious attempt to blend American muscle, Italian artistry, and just enough exclusivity to tempt the richest buyers on both sides of the Atlantic. Only 3 Spiders were built, and each was clothed in hand-formed aluminum, so sensuous it looked like it had been poured over the chassis rather than shaped by mortal hands. At the heart of each car lay the same beating heart as the 5300 GT Strada Coupe, a Chevrolet-sourced small-block V8, usually the 327 cubic inch unit. This was no accident of desperation. Bizzarrini had always believed in the philosophy of combining readily available, reliable American horsepower with light, elegant Italian bodywork to create something faster and more practical than the finicky 12 cylinders of Ferrari or Maserati. In the Coupe, that philosophy had already delivered a car that could run with the best of Maranello or Modena. And in open-top Spider form, it promised to deliver that same intoxicating cocktail with an added sense of drama and wind-in-the-hair speed. But the Bizzarrini 5300 GT Spider was more than just a cut-roof version of the Coupe. Its design was reworked into something more flowing, more seductive, with a shorter tail, a softer rear profile, and impossibly low lines that seemed to bend the laws of proportion. Each car was slightly different, the inevitable result of hand-formed bodywork, and each shimmered with the kind of subtle details that only reveal themselves under close inspection. Delicate scoops, perfectly judged curves, and hidden ducting meant to cool the burly American V8 lurking beneath. Yet, despite the breathtaking design and potent mechanicals, the Spider project was doomed almost from the start. Bizzarrini's company, underfunded and constantly battling debt, simply could not afford the kind of full-scale production needed to make the Spider a true contender in the US luxury market. The cars were unveiled at shows, tantalizing potential buyers and dealers, but the money never truly materialized. By the late 1960s, global tastes were shifting. New regulations loomed on the horizon, and Bizzarrini, always more of an engineer than a businessman, couldn't keep the factory lights on. The few Spiders built survived as rolling ghosts, impossibly beautiful reminders of what might have been if fate had tilted just slightly in Bizzarrini's favor. Unlike mass-produced Ferraris or Porsches, they weren't catalog models or even properly homologated roadsters. They were almost prototypes made real, existing somewhere between production and dream. Today, they've become nearly mythical. Their provenance, their lines, and the legend of Bizzarrini himself, the rebellious genius who dared to challenge Ferrari and Lamborghini, all combined to make them far more than metal and leather. If you ever see one, at a concours d'élégance, a private collection, or caught in a rare magazine photo, you're seeing not just an ultra-rare Italian sports car, but the last breath of an ideal. The Bizzarrini 5300 GT Spider is proof that sometimes even the most brilliant vision can fall victim to the relentless grind of economics and regulation. And yet, its very scarcity, the whispered rumors of only 3 ever built, and the knowledge that they were created by the same man who helped design the Ferrari 250 GTO have made the Spider transcend its failure, living on as an almost mythical emblem of lost potential. They are the sort of cars that enthusiasts talk about in hushed tones. Not just beautiful or rare, but achingly close to being something that could have rewritten history, and in failing, became immortal. For the tiny Bizzarrini mark, the 5300 GT Spider was both a last hope and a swan song, a fleeting glimpse of what could have saved them, now surviving only in a handful of alloy-bodied masterpieces that the world nearly forgot.
The 1974 Vignale Samantha isn't just obscure. It's a car so strange and melancholy in its brief existence that it feels more like something dreamt on a quiet evening in Turin than an actual road-going vehicle. Born from the mind of Alfredo Vignale, a man whose pen shaped some of the most elegant Ferraris, Maseratis, and Lancias of the 1950s and 60s, the Samantha was his attempt to bring a touch of high Italian couture to everyday driving. And yet its very existence seems to be a beautiful contradiction, a coach-built fantasy built on the humblest of Fiat family sedans. Imagine the starting point, the Fiat 125, a sensible, square-shouldered four-door saloon popular with Italian middle-class families and taxi drivers alike. Reliable, robust, but entirely unremarkable in the styling department. Into this ordinary mechanical canvas, Vignale breathed something unexpected. A low-slung, crisply tailored two-door coupe with subtle curves, delicate chrome accents, and pop-up headlights. A rare and dramatic flourish at the time, typically reserved for high-priced exotics. When those headlights were down, the nose looked impossibly clean, almost futuristic. And when they popped up, the Samantha seemed to wink knowingly at the driver, reminding you it was more than just another Fiat. The proportions were graceful, almost effortless. Long flowing front wings, a gentle dip in the waistline, and a rear that avoided flamboyance in favor of understated elegance. From certain angles, the Samantha looked like it could have been a baby Maserati or a forgotten Lancia concept, which wasn't accidental. It was built to catch the eye of someone who wanted exclusivity without the pain of hand-tuned exotics. Inside, the story deepened. Fiat's basic, functional dashboard was hidden behind bespoke trim and polished wood veneer, creating a space that felt at once familiar and quietly special. The seats weren't exactly luxury throne comfortable, but they were reshaped and reupholstered with the coach builder's care. The mechanical heart, a 1.6-liter twin-cam 4, remained unchanged, offering around 90 horsepower. Not sports car quick, but lively enough to make the Samantha feel agile and surprisingly fun, especially when compared to the heavy Grand Tours of the day. Yet it was always more about grace than pace. You wouldn't buy a Samantha to drag race. You'd buy it to park outside a cafe in Milan and watch passersby slow down, puzzled, to figure out what they were seeing. And for a fleeting moment, you'd enjoy being the only person in town, maybe the only person in the country, driving something built by hand in tiny numbers, the product of a legendary name. Then, almost cruelly, tragedy intervened. In 1969, just as the Samantha was beginning its short production run, Alfredo Vignale was killed in a car accident. Without his leadership and vision, Carrozzeria Vignale, already under strain from industrial shifts and fierce competition, lost momentum. Production limped along until the early 70s, but without the energy that had animated Vignale's great hits, the Samantha was left to fade away, unfinished. Fewer than 100 are believed to have left the Turin workshop. Even among those, survival rates are heartbreakingly low. Many ended up scrapped, rusted in barns, or quietly forgotten. What makes the story of the Samantha so haunting is that it sits at the crossroads of eras. The last whispers of old-world Italian coach building before the rise of mass production and platform sharing. It's a physical remnant of a time when even a modest Fiat chassis could, with enough imagination and aluminum panels, be transformed into a rolling piece of art. When small workshops and big dreams could still slip through the cracks of the industry. Today, the Samantha rarely appears at even the most obscure concours. The few survivors are usually owned by quietly obsessive collectors who appreciate the Samantha not as a sports car, nor as an investment, but as a story. A perfect, fleeting collision between everyday practicality and the dying days of bespoke Italian craftsmanship. For those lucky enough to see one in person, there's something almost unsettling about its presence. It's not quite beautiful in the polished, obvious way of a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. Instead, it feels delicate, slightly off-kilter. as if it were plucked out of a parallel automotive history that never quite came to be. It carries within its softly sculpted panels the echo of what might have been, a vision of a motoring world where artistry still trumped economies of scale. And so, the Samantha drifts quietly through time, recognized by few, cherished by fewer still, but holding tight to its secret, that sometimes even a humble Fiat can become an unlikely masterpiece when touched by a master's hand, if only for a moment, and only for a precious handful of cars. In that brief moment, it defied obscurity. And though nearly forgotten, it remains proof that even the most modest mechanical bones can wear the robes of greatness, if only someone dares to imagine it.
The 1969 Monteverdi High 450 SS isn't just an obscure footnote in supercar history. It's one of those improbable stories that reads like an alternate reality where Switzerland, of all places, nearly built one of the most outrageous mid-engine missiles of its day. And the deeper you look, the stranger and more fascinating the High becomes. A Swiss supercar that borrowed a roaring heart straight from American muscle, clothed it in radical Italian styling, and then vanished into legend before it even had a chance to fight. At first glance, the High seems almost too wild to have been real. The body was impossibly low and razor-edged, painted in a metallic purple so intense it looked as if it had been poured out of a bottle of nail polish rather than sprayed on by hand. The lines were uncompromisingly angular, with hidden headlamps, wide haunches, and vents that looked like they belonged on a spaceship. It radiated aggression and drama, the very opposite of discreet Swiss understatement. Under that outlandish skin lurked something even more astonishing: Chrysler's legendary 426 cubic inch Hemi V8, a ferocious powerhouse that had made its name tearing up drag strips and NASCAR ovals. Officially rated at around 450 horsepower, though insiders whispered it could deliver even more, it was the sort of engine that seemed almost laughably inappropriate for a European supercar. Yet Monteverdi insisted on it. Paired to a ZF 5-speed manual mid-mounted behind the cockpit, it promised acceleration and top speed figures that could terrify even the most seasoned driver. Peter Monteverdi, the determined Swiss entrepreneur behind the brand, had a vision that bordered on reckless brilliance. He wasn't content just to copy Ferrari or Lamborghini. He wanted to beat them at their own game by combining raw American power with European finesse. To do that, Monteverdi's team built a tubular space frame chassis, fitted it with sophisticated independent suspension and disc brakes all around, and wrapped it all in that unforgettable purple wedge. And it wasn't just show car fantasy. The High 450 SS was fully functional, capable of starting up and howling its way down the road. Contemporary reports claimed a top speed around 180 miles per hour, which, in the late 1960s, put it squarely in the realm of myth. Even Ferrari's Daytona and Lamborghini's Miura had to glance nervously over their shoulders at this purple Swiss interloper. Yet, as often happens with bold automotive dreams, reality caught up fast. Only 2 High 450 SS chassis were completed, each slightly different as was common for such low-volume prototypes, and the promised production never materialized. The reasons read like a perfect storm of heartbreak. The cost of handcrafting each car was astronomical, the looming oil crisis was about to kill demand for thirsty supercars, and a tiny Swiss company simply couldn't shoulder the burden of full-scale manufacturing and global homologation. Monteverdi did try to evolve the concept with the slightly revised High 450 GTS, but the writing was already on the wall. The company pivoted back towards its front-engined luxury GTs and rugged SUVs, leaving the High as a tantalizing what-if. It was the car that could have made Monteverdi a household name among the automotive elite, and instead, it became an enigma. Today, those 2 original High 450 SS cars are hidden away in private collections and museums, rarely shown and barely driven. When they do appear, They have the aura of forbidden relics from a parallel universe, a universe where Monteverdi really did dethrone the Italian giants, and where Swiss-built, Hemi-powered mid-engine supercars ruled the Geneva Motor Show. For most enthusiasts, the High isn't just rare, it's barely known at all. A whispered legend that sounds too improbable to be true. Yet, stand next to one, and you'll feel the story come alive in the scent of old leather, the mirrored glint of that purple paint, and the quiet menace of the massive Hemi lurking behind the seats. It embodies the stubborn defiance of a small manufacturer who dared to challenge the world's best. And while the dream flickered out almost as quickly as it appeared, it left behind a silhouette so wild and so dramatic that it still makes modern supercars look tame. That's why the Monteverdi High 450 SS isn't just another forgotten prototype. It's a symbol of raw ambition at its most beautiful and irrational. A machine that shouldn't have existed, did, and then disappeared before the world had time to understand what it had just seen. And in that fleeting moment, it proved that sometimes the boldest dreams really do take shape in steel, leather, and a screaming Hemi V8.
The 1965 Ferrari 275 GTB-C Speciale isn't just a rare variant of an already legendary model. It's something closer to living mythology, an artifact forged in the white heat of Ferrari's golden racing years, when the lines between road car and competition prototype blurred until they nearly disappeared. Only 3 were ever built, each hand-assembled in secretive care by Scaglietti's artisans under the watchful eye of Enzo Ferrari himself, making them some of the most elusive and desirable Ferraris to ever wear the Cavallino Rampante badge. From the outside, at first glance, the GTB-C Speciale might seem like a slightly leaner 275 GTB, but a closer look reveals countless unique details. The ultra-thin aluminum alloy bodywork, shaped almost as delicately as an eggshell, saved precious weight for racing, but came at the cost of extreme fragility. You could literally dent the body with a careless touch. Each car was subtly different, slightly varied curves around the fenders, minor adjustments to the vents or scoops, and different treatment of the rear panel lines, all reflecting Ferrari's philosophy of handcrafting each example like a piece of rolling art, rather than following a fixed blueprint. Beneath the impossibly low hood sat the heart of the Speciale, a dry sump version of the 3.3-liter Colombo V12, breathing through 6 carburetors and producing well over 300 horsepower, though, as always with Ferrari, the true numbers were whispered rather than printed. This wasn't a lightly tuned street engine, it was a near-racing unit built to spin freely, survive the demands of endurance racing, and deliver its power in a torrent that could leave even seasoned drivers wide-eyed. The dry sump design was critical, ensuring constant oil pressure under the immense lateral loads of racing, while also letting the engine sit lower in the chassis, improving the car's center of gravity. Inside, the GTB-C Speciale was pure function over frills. Gone were the heavy leather seats and plush carpets of the road-going 275 GTB. In their place, lightweight racing buckets, bare metal floors and drilled pedals, the essentials and nothing more. Even the glass windows were swapped for plexiglass to shave ounces, each tiny detail a reminder that this was not meant for quiet Sunday drives through the Tuscan hills, but for flat-out assaults on Le Mans, Spa, and Sebring. Perhaps what makes the GTB-C Speciale so intoxicating isn't just its rarity or its raw performance, but the era it represents. Ferrari's last stand of the front-engine GT car in international competition before the mid-engine revolution changed endurance racing forever. These 3 cars carried forward the spirit of the 250 GTO, often called the most beautiful and successful racing car ever made, into a new generation, combining that same philosophy of balance, grace, and unfiltered power. In period, these cars were almost like secret weapons, built to challenge increasingly aggressive competitors from Shelby, Aston Martin, and the mighty Ford GT40s. Yet they were also deeply personal projects, rumored to be close to Enzo Ferrari's own heart. In a time when Ferrari was shifting its focus toward mid-engine prototypes, the GTBC Speciale felt like an affectionate farewell to a glorious age of front-engine V12s, a last dance for a concept Ferrari had perfected over decades. Today, seeing one of these three cars in person is like glimpsing a ghost. The few that survive are kept out of public view or shown sparingly at the most prestigious concourse events, where even veteran Ferrari collectors pause in reverence. They are beyond priceless, valued as much for their historical significance as for their mechanical perfection. Each rivet and weld tells a story of a small team of engineers and craftsmen striving to extract every possible advantage from a concept that had nearly reached its evolutionary peak. Even among Ferrari's most mythical creations, the 250 GTO, the 250 Testarossa, and the P-Series prototypes, the GTBC Speciale occupies its own sacred ground, built too few to ever dominate the record books, but so pure and so uncompromising in purpose that they have become talismans of the Maranello legend. They whisper of midnight oil burned in race workshops, of last-minute adjustments made by hand before dawn practice laps, and of a time when Enzo Ferrari could still bend an entire company's will towards the pursuit of victory, no matter the cost. To call the 275 GTBC Speciale a car feels inadequate. It is history, ambition, and art distilled into aluminum and steel, a creation that bridges the romantic ideal of grand touring with the relentless edge of competition. And for those fortunate enough to stand beside one or hear that V12 fire into life, it becomes clear why these three Speciales remain among the most revered and hauntingly beautiful Ferraris ever built.
The 1981 BMW M1 Procar street version stands as one of the most breathtaking and rare automotive marvels ever created. A blazing fusion of race-bred technology and road-going legality that embodies a fleeting moment in motorsport history when manufacturers dared to blur the line between track domination and street presence with astonishing boldness. Emerging from BMW's visionary yet risky project to build a dedicated one-make Procar Championship series to support Formula One races, the M1 Procar wasn't just another supercar, it was a purpose-built racing machine with a street-legal alter ego so fiercely engineered that it remains legendary even today. BMW initially developed the M1 as its first mid-engine sports car meant to rival the titans of Italy like Ferrari and Lamborghini. While the race-spec M1s dominated circuits with blistering speed and razor-sharp handling, the street-legal Procar versions took this raw racing DNA and distilled it into a form that could be driven on public roads, albeit barely. Only about 40 M1 Procars were built, and among those, a scant few were homologated for street use, making the road-legal Procar variants some of the rarest and most prized BMWs ever made. This tiny production run immediately transformed these cars into objects of obsession for collectors and enthusiasts who understood the magnitude of owning a machine that carried nearly full race car performance wrapped in a street-legal package. Visually, the M1 Procar street versions are unmistakable and utterly breathtaking. The bodywork screams race, with a wide-body stance, exaggerated flared wheel arches, and massive aerodynamic appendages, including giant rear spoilers and front air dams designed explicitly to maximize downforce and high-speed stability. The car's mid-engine layout, combined with its low-slung profile and race-inspired lightweight construction, gave it handling prowess that was simply unmatched for its time. Sharper than a blade, yet brutal and relentless when pushed hard. Beneath the dramatic body, the heart of the Procar Street M1 was the same legendary 3.5-liter BMW M88 inline-six engine used in the race cars, but detuned slightly to meet street regulations and improve drivability.
Even with this slight softening, the engine delivered an intoxicating blend of high-revving power and brutal torque, capable of sending the lightweight chassis hurtling forward with the spine-tingling urgency. The transmission was a close-ratio 5-speed manual that required precision and skill, demanding the driver's full attention at all times. A true mechanical ballet where every shift mattered. Inside, the cockpit reflected its racing heritage with minimal comfort or luxury. Sparse, purposeful, and driver-focused, the interior was stripped down to essentials: racing bucket seats, a functional but straightforward instrument cluster, and a no-nonsense steering wheel. There were no unnecessary frills or distractions, just a pure connection between man and machine. Driving the M1 Procar on the street was said to be an overwhelming experience, unforgiving, loud, and intoxicating. The exhaust note alone was a sonic assault, a symphony of raw mechanical ferocity that announced your presence unmistakably. What truly sets the 1981 BMW M1 Procar street versions apart is their incredible rarity and the story behind their creation. These cars were born in an era when manufacturers were beginning to realize the marketing potential of motorsport success, yet very few dared to bring race cars so directly to the public roads. BMW took a gamble, producing these street-legal Procar machines to homologate the series, creating a vehicle that is today viewed as one of the earliest and purest examples of a road-going supercar derived almost directly from the racetrack. As a result, surviving examples have become ultra-valuable collector's items, revered not only for their incredible performance and racing pedigree, but also for their role in shaping the future of performance car manufacturing. The M1 Procar encapsulates a perfect storm of ambition, engineering prowess, and raw passion. The sort of car that challenges everything you thought you knew about what a street car can be. For those lucky enough to drive one, it is an unforgettable experience that combines adrenaline, nostalgia, and a profound appreciation of automotive artistry. In summary, the 1981 BMW M1 Procar street version is not just a car, it's a legend frozen in time. A visceral reminder of a daring era when motorsport and road-going supercars collided in spectacular fashion. Owning or even witnessing one today feels like touching a rare piece of automotive history, a wild scream of engineering brilliance that refuses to be tamed by time or convention.
The 1971 Moore Coupe is a fascinating, little-known chapter in automotive history. An ambitious but ultimately doomed attempt to carve out a niche in the fiercely competitive Grand Tourer segment dominated by Europe's automotive giants. It emerged during a period when small manufacturers and coach builders were experimenting wildly with design and engineering, hoping to capture the imagination of enthusiasts who craved exclusivity, style, and performance, but didn't want to settle for the mass-produced models flooding the market. What makes the Moore Coupe so intriguing is how it embodies a collision of German engineering precision and Italian-inspired exotic design sensibilities. Its sharply angular body lines evoke the cutting-edge aesthetics of the early 1970s supercars and GTs, with a wedge-shaped profile and aggressive stance that hinted at raw performance potential. Yet beneath the stylish exterior lay the reliable heart of a BMW inline-6 engine, a motor celebrated for its smoothness, torque delivery, and spirited revving character. This combination was more than mere happenstance. It reflected a calculated effort to fuse robust, proven mechanicals with daring, avant-garde styling to attract a niche market of enthusiasts who wanted both performance and prestige. However, the Moore Coupe's tale is also one of harsh realities and missed opportunities. Only 2 or 3 prototypes were ever hand-built, painstakingly assembled by a small, passionate team that faced the perennial hurdles of limited resources, funding, and manufacturing capabilities. While the ambition was immense, the logistical and financial challenges quickly mounted. The early 70s were a time when automotive giants wielded overwhelming influence, and small independent projects found it increasingly difficult to break through, especially without the deep pockets required for homologation, testing, and mass production. The Moore Coupe never moved beyond these fragile beginnings. Its brief existence was largely under the radar, overshadowed by flashier, better-funded competitors from Italy, Germany, and Britain. Even today, the car is shrouded in mystery. Few photographs or technical documents survive, and it remains one of the rarest and most enigmatic footnotes in automotive archives. For collectors and historians, the Moore Coupe represents a tantalizing what might have been, a car that had the potential to challenge the established order, but was instead swallowed by the harsh economic and industrial realities of its time. In many ways, the Moore Coupe stands as a symbol of the countless small manufacturers and visionary engineers whose dreams of automotive greatness were cut short by circumstances beyond their control. It highlights how innovation and passion alone were often insufficient to overcome the complex demands of the global car market. The car's rarity and obscurity only add to its mystique. It is a whispered legend among enthusiasts, a nearly forgotten masterpiece of design and ambition that could have changed the trajectory of GT cars had fortune favored it. To encounter the Moore Coupe today, whether in faded photos, dusty archives, or whispered stories, is to glimpse a vanished world of handcrafted individuality, raw creativity, and the relentless human desire to build something extraordinary. It's a reminder that history is shaped not only by the titans of industry, but also by the fragile, fleeting dreams of smaller players who dared to dream big, even if the world wasn't quite ready for them.
The 1995 Lotec C1000 is far more than just a hypercar. It is an almost mythical creation, a rare masterpiece of engineering ambition and design audacity that emerged quietly in an era when the supercar landscape was dominated by titans like the McLaren F1, Ferrari F50, and Porsche 959. But while those cars captured public imagination with their blend of cutting-edge technology and road usability, the Lotec C1000 was something altogether different, a car built not just to compete, but to obliterate conventional boundaries of speed, power, and performance. It was conceived as a private project for a wealthy Middle Eastern client who demanded the ultimate statement of speed and exclusivity. And what emerged was a machine that seems to exist somewhere between a prototype race car and a street-legal monster. Under the sleek, aerodynamic carbon fiber and fiberglass body, which was heavily inspired by the brutal aerodynamic forms of Group C endurance racers of the late 1980s and early 1990s, throbbed a custom-built Mercedes-Benz V8 engine, twin-turbocharged and meticulously crafted to generate a staggering 1,000 horsepower. This power output was jaw-dropping for the mid-90s, when the benchmark supercar struggled to reach half that. But the CE1000 wasn't simply about raw power. Every element of its drivetrain, from its forged internals to the advanced twin-turbo setup, was optimized for a balance of brutal acceleration and surprising street drivability, a task so complex it bordered on the impossible for the technology of the time. The engine delivered a thunderous, ear-splitting roar that echoed both through the streets and in the memories of those fortunate enough to hear it live. The car's exterior design was an exercise in extreme aerodynamics, a wild symphony of sharp edges, large air intakes, sculpted rear wings, and a low-slung profile that hugged the road like a predator stalking its prey. Unlike most supercars that mixed beauty with performance, the CE1000 unapologetically prioritized function. Every panel, every vent, every curve was calculated to minimize drag and maximize downforce. This made the car look less like a vehicle and more like a missile primed to launch into the stratosphere, an impression reinforced by its incredibly low height and wide stance that seemed to challenge gravity itself. Beneath the bodywork, the chassis was crafted with the precision of a race car. Lightweight materials such as carbon fiber and aluminum composites were used extensively, making the car nimble despite its monstrous power. The suspension was track-tuned, yet adjustable enough for street use, though driving it on anything but the smoothest tarmac was an exercise reserved for the most fearless. The brakes, wheels, and tires were selected to cope with mind-boggling speeds, making every aspect of the CE1000 a high-performance tour de force. Yet, despite all this, the Lotec C1000 was almost entirely absent from the public eye. After its initial reveal, the car disappeared into the shadows of private ownership and automotive lore. For years, enthusiasts and collectors heard rumors and whispered stories about the car's wild performance, its near uncontrollable power, and the mystique of its vanished existence. This veil of secrecy only fueled the legend, making the CE1000 one of the most elusive hypercars ever created. When the car re-emerged decades later at auction, it stunned a new generation of car fans and collectors, reminding the world that the 1990s weren't just about technological breakthroughs, but also about raw, unfiltered passion and uncompromising vision. It was a glimpse into what might have been if a small, daring company with a limitless budget and no fear of failure had decided to rewrite the rules entirely. Today, the 1995 Lotec CE1000 stands as an extraordinary symbol of automotive extremity, a hypercar that pushed the envelope so far beyond contemporary limits that it seems almost timeless. It challenges our understanding of speed, engineering, and exclusivity, serving as a testament to what can be achieved when creativity and technology collide with the absolute freedom to dream without constraint. For those lucky enough to witness it in person, the Lotec CE1000 remains not just a car but a legend, a roaring, blazing comet that raced past all expectations and then vanished into history, leaving behind only stories of its raw, untamed power and breathtaking beauty.
The 1965 Ferrari 365P Berlinetta Speciale, affectionately and famously known as the Tre Posti, is not just a rare car. It is a breathtaking vision, a rolling masterpiece that pushed the boundaries of automotive design and engineering far beyond the conventional limits of its time. In a world where most grand tourers adhered to traditional layouts and styling, Ferrari dared to imagine something radically different, a machine that seemed to come from a future era, rather than the mid-1960s. It embodied an audacity that few manufacturers would dare, blending artistry, innovation, and performance into one of the most mesmerizing cars ever conceived. At the heart of the 365P Berlinetta Speciale's mystique is its revolutionary seating arrangement. 3 seats positioned side by side across the front, with the driver perfectly centered. This was not just a stylistic flourish, but a profound engineering choice that redefined driver engagement and vehicle balance. The central driving position gave the pilot unmatched control, superior visibility, and a sense of harmony with the car that was unprecedented at the time. This configuration anticipated by decades the similar concept that would only be famously and successfully executed with the McLaren F1 in the 1990s, which remains the benchmark for driver-focused supercar design. The car's breathtaking design was the work of Aldo Broverone, the renowned stylist at Pininfarina, whose artistic genius sculpted an impossibly sleek, futuristic shape. The 365P Berlinetta Speciale was more than a car. It was a flowing sculpture. Its elongated nose tapered sharply into a low, wedge-like front end, while the body's sweeping lines and subtle curves drew the eye toward the muscular rear, housing the powerful mid-mounted V12. The entire silhouette suggested motion even at rest, embodying speed, elegance, and aggression simultaneously. The partially exposed engine bay and flowing rear haunches gave the car a purposeful racing spirit, while the front's dramatic glass canopy added a cockpit-like atmosphere, reinforcing its race-bred pedigree. Beneath this stunning exterior lay Ferrari's 4.4-liter V12, a beast of pure mechanical art, delivering immense power and a spine-tingling exhaust note.
The mid-engine layout, rare for Ferraris at the time, contributed to near-perfect weight distribution, enhancing handling and responsiveness to levels few road cars could match. The car's chassis and suspension were equally advanced, making the 365P Berlinetta Speciale not only a visual marvel, but a genuine performer capable of thrilling speed and agile dynamics. Only 2 examples of this enigmatic model were ever built, making it one of Ferrari's rarest and most exclusive creations. These cars were not designed for the mass market. Instead, they served as private showpieces and experiments for Ferrari's most privileged clientele, showcasing the company's technological leadership and willingness to push limits. The ultra-limited production and extraordinary design have made these Ferraris legendary among collectors and enthusiasts alike, not merely for their rarity, but for their embodiment of visionary thinking and engineering brilliance. What makes the Tre Posti especially captivating is how it encapsulated the spirit of an era hungry for progress and innovation. At a time when the automotive industry was dominated by familiar forms and cautious engineering, Ferrari's willingness to challenge norms signaled a leap into the future, envisioning concepts that would only gain widespread acceptance decades later. Yet, despite its groundbreaking nature, the car was never intended for mass production, likely due to the practical challenges it posed: manufacturing complexity, unconventional ergonomics, and Ferrari's prudent marketing considerations in an era less ready for such radical departures. Today, the 365P Berlinetta Speciale stands as a symbol of Ferrari's undying commitment to innovation and artistry. It represents the perfect fusion of design and performance, a testament to what can happen when creative audacity meets engineering excellence. For historians, collectors, and car lovers, it is a dazzling glimpse into an alternate automotive future. A future imagined with bold strokes, but never fully realized. Owning or witnessing a 365P Berlinetta Speciale is akin to holding a piece of history that transcends time. An ultra-rare, priceless jewel in the crown of automotive heritage, reminding us that true greatness in car design comes from daring to dream differently and reaching for the extraordinary. This car is more than metal and horsepower. It is a legend, a statement, and an everlasting inspiration that continues to fuel the passion of those who live and breathe the art of the automobile.
The 1966 Jaguar XJ13 is more than just a car. It's a profound symbol of unfulfilled ambition, a shimmering silver ghost that haunts the annals of automotive history with its blend of exquisite design, engineering audacity, and heartbreaking, unrealized potential. Conceived during the golden era of endurance racing, when the 24 Hours of Le Mans was the ultimate test of man and machine, the XJ13 was Jaguar's bold last stand to reclaim racing glory. It was designed not only to compete, but to dominate, a mid-engine masterpiece forged in aluminum and powered by a revolutionary V12 engine that promised to redefine what British engineering could achieve on the world stage. And yet, despite the brilliance of its conception and the intoxicating promise it held, the car never raced, never roared to victory, and instead became a spectral legend, a lone prototype whose story is woven with both triumph and tragedy. The genesis of the XJ13 came at a time when Jaguar's racing pedigree was already legendary, thanks to their dominance in the 1950s with cars like the C-Type and D-Type. But as the 1960s dawned, Jaguar found itself increasingly sidelined in the brutal competition of endurance racing, facing fierce rivals such as Ford, Ferrari, and Porsche. Determined to fight back, Jaguar commissioned the XJ13 as a cutting-edge racing prototype that would embody everything the brand stood for: engineering excellence, bold innovation, and timeless style. The car's mid-engine layout was revolutionary for Jaguar, shifting away from the traditional front-engine designs that had defined their previous race cars. This radical change promised superior balance and handling, a perfect complement to the potent V12 power plant developed in-house by Jaguar engineers, designed for high revving performance and a haunting, thunderous exhaust note.
Crafted from lightweight aluminum alloy, the XJ13's chassis and body were sculpted with aerodynamic precision, its silhouette a breathtaking fusion of curves and purpose-driven vents, designed to slice through the air at speeds exceeding 180 miles per hour. Every element spoke of engineering brilliance, from the carefully balanced weight distribution to the intricate suspension geometry, all tuned to extract the maximum performance from the car. Yet the XJ13 was also a work of art, its lines both elegant and aggressive, evoking a future where cars were not just machines, but expressions of vision and passion. Despite the staggering promise of the car, fate intervened cruelly. By the time the XJ13 was ready, racing regulations had shifted, limiting the use of prototypes like this one. More importantly, Jaguar's corporate strategy had changed, with the company deciding to focus on luxury road cars rather than the costly, risky world of endurance racing. The XJ13 was quietly shelved, a victim of shifting priorities rather than engineering failure. Only a single prototype was ever completed, and it was relegated to the shadows of the Jaguar factory, a ghostly reminder of what might have been. The XJ13 story took a dramatic and tragic turn in 1971 during the filming of the movie Le Mans. Used for a high-speed stunt, the prototype crashed violently on camera, sustaining severe damage. Many thought the car was lost forever, a spectacular, irreplaceable piece of history shattered. But Jaguar's engineers, driven by reverence for the car and its place in their heritage, undertook an extraordinary restoration effort. Using original blueprints, spare parts, and incredible craftsmanship, they painstakingly rebuilt the XJ13, returning it to a state of near-original perfection. This act of resurrection transformed the car from a crashed prototype into a rolling museum piece, a symbol of Jaguar's engineering soul and a timeless emblem of the dreams that power the automotive world. Today, the Jaguar XJ13 is one of the most coveted and revered prototypes in existence. It rarely leaves Jaguar's custody, only appearing at prestigious concours and private events, where it commands reverence and awe. It is a car that transcends mere mechanics, an ethereal presence that evokes a narrative of glory lost and dreams deferred. It whispers the possibilities of a Jaguar that might have conquered the endurance racing world anew, a vision never realized, but never forgotten. For enthusiasts, the XJ13 is a living ghost, a shining beacon of engineering brilliance and artistic daring frozen in time. It stands as a poignant reminder that even the greatest machines can be stopped by forces beyond horsepower and design, be it changing rules, shifting corporate winds, or the unpredictable tides of history. The XJ13 doesn't just represent what Jaguar built, it represents what Jaguar dared to dream, and how sometimes the greatest stories are those left unfinished, hanging in the air like the echo of a V12 engine roaring into the night, never quite fading away. The 1956 Bristol 405 Drophead Coupe is not merely a car, it is a symbol of a bygone era when automotive craftsmanship was an art form, and exclusivity was valued above all else. Emerging from the hands of the small but fiercely dedicated British automaker Bristol Cars, the 405 Drophead Coupe embodies a perfect fusion of British elegance and American muscle, wrapped in a package so rare that it has become a near mythical treasure among collectors and connoisseurs worldwide. With only around 45 examples ever produced, each one remains a unique, bespoke masterpiece, painstakingly hand-assembled with extraordinary attention to detail that borders on obsession. At a time when many manufacturers were rushing to mass-produce vehicles with efficiency as their highest priority, Bristol stood apart with a philosophy rooted in tradition, quality, and refined performance. The 405 Drophead Coupe was built to cater to a select clientele who demanded more than mere transportation. They sought an experience steeped in luxury, power, and subtle prestige. Beneath its sleek and understated exterior lay a robust Chrysler V8 engine, a powerful American heart that transformed the car from a simple touring vehicle into a refined grand tourer capable of effortless highway cruising and spirited driving. This engine choice was emblematic of Bristol's unique approach, combining the best of both worlds by pairing the meticulous craftsmanship of British coach builders with the reliability and muscle of American engineering. The design of the 405 Drophead Coupe itself is a study in elegance without excess. The flowing lines of its bodywork, sculpted by Bristol's in-house design team, speak of timeless grace, where every curve and contour was carefully shaped to create a silhouette that is as balanced as it is beautiful. The open-top Drophead style not only offers the joy of wind-in-the-hair motoring, but also reveals the sumptuous interior, where every inch is finished with the finest materials. Rich leather upholstery, hand-stitched to perfection, polished wood veneers, and meticulously crafted metal accents create an atmosphere of opulence that rivals the best luxury cars of the era. It is a car built for gentlemen and ladies who appreciate the quiet confidence that comes from driving something truly exceptional and rare. The 405's chassis and suspension were engineered to provide a ride that was both comfortable and engaging. Unlike many cars of its time that prioritized style over substance, the Bristol 405 Drophead Coupe handled with surprising poise and responsiveness, thanks in part to its lightweight construction and well-tuned suspension geometry. Drivers could enjoy a smooth, planted feel on the road, whether cruising along the English countryside or navigating city streets, making it a versatile grand tour in every sense. Despite all its virtues, the Bristol 405 Drophead Coupe remained a hidden gem for decades, overshadowed by flashier marques and mass-market luxury brands. Its incredibly limited production run meant that few ever encountered one outside of exclusive circles. To this day, the 405 is a rarity on the road and at car shows, often whispered about among enthusiasts who recognize it as one of the finest examples of British automotive elegance ever created. Its scarcity has only fueled its mystique, making it a prized possession for collectors who treasure its combination of rarity, craftsmanship, and the understated power of its American V8. Owners of the 405 often speak of it with reverence and affection, describing the car as a rolling work of art and a perfect harmony of engineering and design. It is a vehicle that demands patience and respect, but rewards with an unmatched driving experience that feels both luxurious and exhilarating. Each journey in a Bristol 405 is a step back in time, a chance to connect with a tradition of bespoke motoring that few modern cars can replicate. In summary, the 1956 Bristol 405 Drophead Coupe is far more than just a classic car. It is a testament to a rare breed of automotive excellence where craftsmanship, exclusivity, and performance intertwine to create something truly extraordinary. Its blend of British elegance, American power, and sheer rarity has secured its place in automotive history as a ghostly, whisper-quiet legend, one that continues to captivate the hearts of those fortunate enough to witness or own one. In a world of mass production and fleeting trends, the 405 Drophead Coupe remains a shining beacon of timeless luxury and bespoke artistry.
The 1969 Grifo A3C is an extraordinary and rare breed of sports car that perfectly encapsulates a bold moment in automotive history, when Italian elegance collided head-on with raw American muscle. At a glance, it looks like a work of art, a sleek, purposeful grand tour with Bertone's signature sharp yet fluid design language, boasting clean lines, muscular fenders, and an aggressive stance that commands attention. But beneath its stunning exterior lies a beast built for speed, precision, and the fierce demands of competitive racing.
Unlike its more refined road-going siblings, the A3C was conceived as a homologation special, a lightweight, stripped-down racing weapon that could meet the strict regulations required to compete in endurance events and touring car races of the era. Iso Rivolta, the company behind the Grifo, was relatively small, but ambitious, determined to prove they could play with the giants of motorsport. To do this, they paired the unmistakable beauty of Italian design with one of the most potent power plants available, a Chevrolet Blitzbach V8, renowned for its brute force and reliability on and off the track. This wasn't just a big engine slapped into a pretty body. The A3C's chassis was carefully tuned for racing, with weight-saving measures, enhanced suspension geometry, and performance brakes that could handle the intense demands of circuit driving. The result was a car that could sprint from 0 to 60 with terrifying aggression, maintain razor-sharp cornering, and withstand hours of endurance races. Its Chevrolet V8 pumped out a staggering amount of torque and horsepower, delivering a raw, visceral driving experience that few cars of the time could rival. Visually, the A3C kept the elegance of Bertone's craftsmanship, but stripped away unnecessary luxury touches in favor of function and performance. Inside, racing bucket seats, minimal instrumentation, and a purposeful layout communicated a serious commitment to competition. The A3C was a machine born for the track, and while it retained the soul and soul-stirring style of an Italian supercar, it was grounded firmly in the practical reality of motorsport. Despite its immense capabilities and gorgeous design, the A3C never reached mass production. Only a handful were built, making it a unicorn in the truest sense. Financial struggles, racing regulations, and the fiercely competitive motorsport environment meant the A3C remained an elusive, fleeting legend. But those that survive today are treasured by collectors, regarded as some of the most evocative and thrilling Italian-American hybrids ever made. They embody an era when passion and daring engineering could combine to create cars that were as beautiful as they were brutal. Owners and enthusiasts often describe the Iso Grifo A3C as a raw, intoxicating experience. The thunderous roar of the Chevy V8, the sharp feedback through the wheel, and the car's nimble yet muscular character make every drive feel like a race. It's a vehicle that demands full attention and rewards with pure, unfiltered adrenaline. It's a reminder of a time when the automotive world was a little wilder, more daring, and full of fascinating experiments bridging continents and styles. Today, the A3C stands as a symbol of what can happen when different automotive cultures collide, a beautiful, roaring testament to creativity, ambition, and the pursuit of excellence. Its rarity, performance, and design continue to captivate collectors and car lovers around the world, making the 1969 Iso Grifo A3C not just a car, but a legend that carries the echoes of a bold, thrilling past. The 1967 Ferrari 330 P4 is more than just a race car. It is a living legend, a flawless fusion of art, engineering, and sheer competitive spirit that embodies the very essence of Ferrari's golden era of motorsport. Crafted during a time when racing was as much about passion and innovation as it was about speed, the P4 was Ferrari's ultimate weapon against the formidable Ford GT40 program that threatened to dominate endurance racing in the late 1960s. The story of the 330 P4 is one of determination, brilliance, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. Qualities that made it not just a machine, but a symbol of racing excellence and Italian pride. Only 3 Ferrari 330 P4s were ever built, making them some of the rarest and most coveted cars in the world. Each car was hand-assembled with painstaking attention to detail by Ferrari's master craftsmen, featuring a lightweight tubular chassis and body panels forged from aluminum, which gave it an ethereal presence both on and off the track. The car's design was a masterstroke of aerodynamic elegance, created by the legendary Pininfarina studio, boasting a sleek, low-slung profile with graceful curves that seemed sculpted by the wind itself. The P4's body was not merely beautiful, it was functional, engineered to slice through the air with minimal drag and maximum stability at breathtaking speeds. Underneath its stunning exterior, the 330 P4 was powered by a fearsome 4.0-liter V12 engine, derived from Ferrari's Formula One technology, which produced roughly 450 horsepower, a staggering output for its time. This engine was a mechanical symphony. Its firing order and high-revving nature produced an intoxicating roar that echoed around legendary circuits like Daytona and Monza. The car's chassis and suspension were engineered for razor-sharp handling, making it incredibly nimble and responsive, a car that required the utmost skill and bravery to harness its full potential. Every component was optimized for endurance racing, where reliability was as critical as speed. The 1967 racing season marked the zenith of the P4 story. At the 24 Hours of Daytona, Ferrari unleashed its secret weapon against Ford's monstrous GT40 Mark II. The battle was fierce and dramatic. The P4s not only matched the GT40s in speed, but often outpaced them, clinching a memorable 1-2-3 finish that remains etched in motorsports history. The P4 demonstrated extraordinary performance not only at Daytona, but also at the 24 Hours of Le Mans and other prestigious endurance events, proving itself a formidable contender. Yet the rivalry pushed Ferrari to the very limits of innovation, leading to the P4's eventual evolution into the 412P and then the revolutionary 512S, signaling the end of the P4's brief but blazing era. Beyond its track exploits, the 330 P4 has acquired an almost mythical status among collectors and enthusiasts. Today, the 3 surviving original P4s are among the most priceless cars in existence, treasured as rare jewels of automotive history. Their value extends beyond monetary worth. They represent a time when Ferrari raced with soul and unmatched engineering genius. These cars are typically housed in private collections or automotive museums, carefully preserved and restored to maintain their pristine condition. Appearances at prestigious concourse events and historic racing weekends are rare and highly anticipated occasions, where the P4's hypnotic beauty and thunderous V12 growl remind the world why it remains an icon. The aura surrounding the Ferrari 330 P4 is nearly sacred. It is not merely admired for its speed or rarity, but revered as a piece of living history that captures the romantic spirit of the 1960s motorsport period, a period defined by risk, artistry, and technological breakthroughs. For many, the P4 embodies the passion and tenacity of Enzo Ferrari himself, a man who believed that racing was the ultimate expression of automotive excellence. To see a 330 P4 in person is to witness a masterpiece that transcends time, a breathtaking reminder that the pursuit of speed can be elevated to an art form.